Good morning. Welcome back, you guys. I'm on my way to work and I'm going to speak about that topic that I covered in my most recent video in Spanish, but I'm going to speak about it in English today. I knew at the time of recording that video that I was most likely going to re-record the video in English. And I just want to, make this little disclaimer that I've realized as I explore the idea in English, or the entire general concept of what I'm going to talk about. I speak about different things. I cover different events and whatnot, and I have more. There are more roads in English because I have a higher vocabulary and it's my first language. So anyway, let's start. Many years ago, at the end of a year-long program, one of my teachers approached me, and I think the situation was it may have been the last week. It was very close to the end, and she probably had a little one-on-one conversation with everybody. Up until this point, I had not really had that with her or anyone. I just keep it professional, usually at work or at school or whatever I'm doing. Go to class, do my stuff, and of course we interact, but it's for her to approach me, it was a kind of a new thing. So she approached me one-on-one. I don't remember everything she said, but what I remember clearly was that she told me, "You have a neutral energy. You have a neutral energy." When she said that to me, I smiled. I remember smiling, and like a big smile. And the reason that I smiled, the reason that that felt good, was that it was the sensation, or it was the experience of feeling understood, the experience of feeling seen. She had, observed me for a year, observed my behavior, and decided to tell me that. And it wasn't the first time that I had felt seen or understood by somebody that I respected. And I should note that I had more respect for her than I did for any of the other teachers. Nothing against the other teachers, but it's just true. For whatever reason, her personality, the way that the space that she held teaching a class, in my opinion, it demanded respect to her whole style. I liked that. This was massage school. Some teachers, and I learned a lot from them as well, and I actually really enjoy being around such people, but some of them were more on the floaty side. You think of airy, fairy, floaty, spiritual people. And I used to be that. So I'm not hating, Like I said, I actually do enjoy being around such people because they shine very brightly and it's really positive energy. But this woman was just, more grounded and just more, she maintained healthier boundaries, let's say. But the point is, I had respect for her. And she told me something about myself that I thought was, it pretty much sums up, it's the most general, and in a way it's also profound. I mean, she showed me that she deeply understood without knowing any personal details about me, because being someone who maintains a neutral space, a neutral energy among others, most others don't know that much about you. It's part of the whole thing. And it's not as though one day early in life I decided, I would like to become a neutral entity, or I would like to exude neutral energy. This is just who I am. Without trying to do anything special, this is the person that I am, and it can cause some issues in life, but overall, I believe this concept is at the core of what makes me able to remain calm and chill and just go with the flow in life and not have too much drama or anything I mean, I see a lot. I know a lot of people firsthand who, in my opinion, are overly dramatic, and they exaggerate things in their mind, and then that ends up becoming an exaggerated experience outside of themselves. And it's just, man, I don't know how people do it. I don't know how they can do that. But like I said, I've never been that person. I've always leaned towards just naturally, just being neutral. And part of being neutral, I mean, it goes beyond just like the energy or the space that I hold. It's actually like, I find it to be the best way to analyze anything. And I think that's kind of obvious. It goes without saying, right? The example we spoke about the other day in the live with Don't You Forget About Me, Goku, and M. I don't remember exactly which were present. I know for sure Don't You Forget About Me was present. But in the live we spoke about this idea or this thing that I do, which is, and it's an easy example of American football. I'm not a football fan. I wouldn't say that. I can appreciate high-level plays. I can appreciate high-level displays of athleticism. They can actually make me feel excited. I can get like hyped up when I see some crazy shit go down. But I'm not a fan of the sport. I don't watch it religiously. I don't follow any teams. I don't root for any teams. Automatically, I would probably just root for the underdog in any situation like that where I don't know anything about the game or the sport. Or I don't know much, I should say. But anyway, the past several years, I have been watching the Super Bowl with my family. And even before that point, I had watched it with them quite a few times. But the past several years, what I'll do is basically watch about 4 games leading up to the Super Bowl. So I have a tiny bit of context. And throughout that time, inevitably, I learn who my family is rooting for. Even if their team doesn't make it, they always are going to say, well, we want this team to win over that team. I'd rather see them win for this, that, and the third. And what I do is, because if I just maintained my natural position on this, neutrality, number one, I probably wouldn't even be present. I probably wouldn't even sit and watch the Super Bowl with them because I would have, and I truly don't have any interest in it. Number two, maybe, okay, if I did sit there with them, I would just sit there quietly. I'd be bored out of my mind, probably messing around on my phone, and I wouldn't really care. It would just be kind of a pretty flat and boring experience. But what I choose to do in order to create fun, to create a more fun experience, to create excitement and a little bit of chaos, I guess, is I always root for the opposing team. I root for whichever team my family does not want to win. That way, when what they perceive to be their enemy scores, I get to cheer. And that creates more friction within them and within the space. And vice versa. Of course, when their team wins, they get to they get that feeling of rubbing it in your face. And my grandmother, for example, she'll scream, "Woo!" and then start laughing. like turn to look at me and laugh. And it just makes it so much more fun. So when it comes to games like that, I have learned the value, and I really enjoy polarizing myself temporarily in order to create more fun. I don't always do that though. Oftentimes in other scenarios, I can't think of an example right now, but there's plenty of times where I do simply opt out of a game or an experience. I just do not participate. And people don't like that. They, that's boring to them. But it is what it is. Football is an easy example. And then after thinking about sports, I think about politics. It's another game, but it's different because if I completely ignore sports, that is, if I just don't ever turn on the TV and don't ever look up information online and I don't know what's going on, there will be no effect on my life whatsoever from anything that happens in sports. I cannot say the same for politics. But what I will say is that from my perspective, we have very little control unless you are really passionate and you enter the realm and you become one of these leaders or one of these people in a position of power. you might be able to affect change, but still it's up to the voters, supposedly. So, I mean, you need to get voted in. You need to, there's so many positions and so many different things. This isn't a video about politics, but the idea to me is that it's still a game, and I see people who, they play it, they plug in, they polarize themselves so powerfully that any little piece of news, any little hint of anything, movement that's going more in their direction or away from their, like more in favor of their team or less in favor of their team, any little movement, they freak out, they get stressed. I mean, again, I think of my grandmother, she gets visibly and just seriously stressed and upset with what she sees on the news because of her political polarization. I view that as a choice. Again, now it's different because if you ignore all of that stuff 100%, the political world, the political realm will inevitably affect your life. It might take some time. Because when you're really tuned into it and you're polarized and you're watching the news, you'll feel that right away. Just at the possibility that this certain thing might change, or that this new law might happen, or that this individual might get voted in, you get all mad and you get pissed off. And if you were ignoring all that stuff, eventually you would get the news, okay, they got elected, and then eventually their policies would start to affect your life. The point is, like, so for me, like, I involve myself as little as I need to with that, because I'm not interested in all the ugly side of that game. Remaining as neutral as possible, and just by nature, I guess, I feel like I'm relatively neutral. I wouldn't, for example, I don't title myself Democrat or Republican or whatever. I have views that would fit in either one of those categories, and in other categories I probably have some pretty radical views, and at the same time I have some very traditional views. But these are games that we play with our energy. Two examples of games. But there's almost an unlimited number, or an unlimited series of these games. Some of them are difficult to identify, but interpersonal games, emotional games, games that you might play in a loving, like, romantic relationship. And like I said, this isn't even a goal of mine. I don't consciously think, okay, wait, what are you doing? Maintain neutrality. I don't really think about it. It's just who I am. So there certainly are areas where I am not neutral, and I do, for many years now, I have been playing the game of life, if you will. Like this neutrality, the neutral energy that I refer to, it was definitely a lot more pure before I started working. I remember before I started working in the real world, I felt that, I believe it was fear. I was afraid that I was going to feel guilty because I was not really in it yet, but I was in a position where I was about to enter a world that I thought was sick. Like, this whole system is fucked up and evil. It's like a sinister system, like somebody else's game that I'm gonna just volunteer to become a part of and become one of their pawns. That's what it felt like. Like, it was actually there was a lot of fear there, I believe. Though I don't think I consciously recognized it as fear at the time. But yeah, it's fear of guilt, fear of feeling guilty. Because, you see all the evil stuff that your government is responsible for and has been responsible for historically, and now you're going to work and pay taxes, and like you're funding them, in a way. That idea, I think it terrified me. And now that I'm in it, and I've been in it for a long time, I'm not, I guess I don't give a fuck, because it doesn't affect me at all. I don't really think about that. I certainly don't feel guilty. But there's levels, right? There's definitely levels. And anyway, just to trace back, just so I don't stray too far off topic, I'm going to go back to what my teacher said. You have a neutral energy. I felt heard, I felt seen, I felt understood. Nobody in my life up until that point had ever told me that. my mother, my father, my sister, anyone who knows me, long friends. And it's not to say that they were probably aware of it. Maybe they didn't think to word it that way, or I don't know. But hearing that meant a lot because, like I said, this is what I am. And for someone to recognize it with such a simple statement that just encompasses everything, felt really good. And I notice what people say these days. Like, I'm thinking of my coworkers. I've worked at my current workplace for a little over 2 years, and so they're newer people in my life. But what I've heard from many of them is, and what I hear from a lot of people, is that they can't imagine me getting mad. I've been mad in front of them, but I don't reveal my emotions to them. So they just don't know what that looks like. But I know what they refer to. They're talking about if I really got mad. They can't imagine me even reaching that state because they're like, oh, you're so chill. You seem chill, relaxed. And that is part of, I guess, again, part of the being neutral. Part of what goes into that is, since I was a kid, I guess my mother taught me this, and I've always tried to do it. And I've gotten a lot better. It's a practice, and I get better at it the older I get, the more years that I live. And that is the practice of not judging other people, non-judgment. And some of that mixed in with that is forgiveness, the practice of forgiveness. Mixed in with that is the practice of patience, being patient. They all work hand in hand. And I don't claim to be a master. I will never reach some master level in this life when it comes to any of these things, because I am deeply emotional, and I struggle with that. I struggle with my emotional self that really wants to just react and snap back at certain situations. But anyway, it's a practice to be patient. It's a practice to forgive, and it's a practice to not judge other people. I'm constantly judging other people, and I have to catch myself and correct myself, and basically take a few steps back so that I can look at things from a neutral perspective and realize, oh yeah, this person is not my enemy. They're not even on an opposing team in some kind of playful game. We're on the same team. We are of the same race, of the same species, and we are a family. And my goal should be to understand this individual, or everyone. My goal should be to understand everyone and to learn how to, if I can't immediately, learn how to be compassionate and express compassion toward everyone. These are these goalposts, like these goals that I have and that I'm always moving toward in one way or another. I think it sounds like, in a way, like the goal is perfection, and maybe it is, but we have to be realistic about that. I have to be realistic about that. Like I said, knowing that I will never reach perfection, and that very concept is, I think, illusory, at least when it comes to the human experience. If we speak about the spiritual experience or existence beyond humanity, beyond death, I think I do believe in perfection. And I can say that we are all ultimately perfect, or all of this, not us, but all of this, everything is perfect ultimately. And there are no flaws, and there is no work to be done, and all is well. But that, to me, it's not that it isn't true, but that's a spiritual truth that oftentimes is hard to relate to and hard to grasp as a human. Especially now, like I said, that I have entered the human experience. Like when I first started making videos, I was still in high school, and then I ended high school, and then I was like floating around. Like I said, I wasn't even part of the system. I wasn't working, I wasn't paying taxes. I was a floater for a few years. And during that time, when it comes to like spirituality, I guess, everything was much more pure. Like my perspectives were more pure. I was even more neutral, if that makes sense, in my approach to everything. But when you enter this game, like the rat race, and there's just so much chaos, and your energy levels are being tested, or just everything about you. I mean, you become tested by so many different things. Another way, I'm thinking of something that I mentioned in that video in Spanish, and this may be unnecessary, but another way to highlight what neutral means to me, and this is, there could be some slight literal truth to this, but I mean to exaggerate what I'm about to say and make extreme examples. So a negative person, a negative entity, somebody who exudes negative energy, an extreme example would be, okay, you're at home, you're relaxing, everything's fine. Middle of the night, somebody breaks your window, they enter your home, they put a gun to your head, they rob you, they hit you with the gun, and then they leave. That's a horrifying, negative experience, right? A positive being, a positive individual, somebody who exudes positive energy would be somebody, first of all, that you know already and you associate with warmth. They arrive at your home with a fresh, still warm batch of home-baked cookies and home-cooked food, and they sit down and have a heart-to-heart talk with you that is healing, and you feel warm in their presence, and you eat the delicious food, and you just feel like this person is an angel on earth. That's a positive being. A neutral being, or a neutral person, someone who exudes neutral energy, is someone who you may not even know, first of all, and they don't even visit your home. They're at their home, not bothering anyone. You don't even think about them. They are effectively invisible. Each one of those examples, of course, is very extreme, but that's what I mean when I say I'm a neutral person. My life isn't that extreme. I'm not invisible. I do have a circle, a social circle. I do have family. But it's very small, and I'm leaning much more in that direction than I am towards being a negative entity or a positive entity. And one thing that I think I would love, and it's very difficult for whatever reason, it's difficult for me to express this. It's not difficult for me to feel it, to feel love and compassion or warmth for others, but it's difficult for me to express it, apparently. At least this is what I believe. And I'm speaking, I don't know what my videos, how I come across in my videos, but in my personal life, just how that teacher approached me and she said, you have a neutral energy. I think it would be amazing if one day someone approached me in a similar way. Someone that was a new person in my life that knew me for like a year, and they had time to observe the way I operate, the way I feel, the way I act, and then they approached me and said, you have a very warm energy. That, in general, I could say that would be a goal of mine. I need to learn, I would love to learn, how to express the warmth that I often feel for others. Because even when I do feel it, and my actual internal perspective might not be neutral. It might be like I love a person, and I don't mean in a romantic way or someone who's not in my family, but like I don't know, I appreciate a person, I'm grateful for them, and I so far in life I have failed at effectively communicating those feelings for people. And not only communication with words, but showing them and acting on it. And this would be what is, I guess, a downside of me being naturally this neutral energy person. It's that I keep a lot of myself inside. I don't share it with others, or I don't reveal it to them. I've shared a lot in the past with romantic partners. I can say that for sure. But I want to be able to share that same warmth with everyone that I care about, I should say. Because I still do, and probably will always, maintain very strict boundaries when it comes to how I interact with people that I don't know that well. You know, I'm not saying I want to walk around and just be, I mean, it would be awesome, but I don't believe I'm capable of being like, you know, Jesus Christ, for example. Again, that would be a goal. It's healthy, I think. It can be healthy to set a really grand goal like that and set someone as your example. I think that's a beautiful thing, but realistically, I'm trying to set realistic and obtainable goals in my life. But anyway, I'm pretty much here now, so thank you guys very much for listening and for spending time with me today. I'm about to work. Normally I don't work on Sundays, but I've added a few of these shifts. I've got several more coming up next month. And I actually like working on Sundays. It's an easy shift today and good people. So yeah, have a great day. I'm going to try to upload this video tonight, I think. But if not, it might be Monday by the time you see this. But anyway, have a great day. And I'll see you guys next time. Take care.